Son Gohan is pretty much universally known as the face of wasted potential in the Dragon Ball community. His tracksuit era was heavily criticized by fans, me included, but is Gohan actually a bad character? Maybe his so-called fall off is one of the best character arcs in the Dragon Ball universe.
Let me land, OG, let me land.
Alright, hear me out. After watching this video, I decided to reread the original manga myself and realize something. Dragon Ball Super may understand the character of Gohan more than we think. Let me break this down. So back when Gohan was like 4, he was thrust into the middle of this war with planet busting aliens. And mind you, this isn't just a training camp for young warriors. Nah, he's basically kidnapped by Piccolo, tossed into the wilderness and forced to survive. Piccolo at this point is the son of the demon that Goku killed and is still kinda evil. This is also right after his father is killed by the green demon man that kidnaps him. In almost any other series, this would be depicted as a traumatic event with ramifications for the characters as they develop, but not so much in Dragon Ball Z, or so we thought. Gohan goes on to show flashes of greatness like when he headbutted Raditz and blasted Nappa. But was he trying to be a hero? Absolutely not. The boy just wanted to go home and be with his family, something he doesn't get to do much from this point on. The adults around him, whether it's Piccolo, Goku or even others, start to treat Gohan less like a child and more like a warrior in training. But it's not like Gohan signed up for this life. He didn't ask to be pushed into these battles, let alone to constantly be put into harm's way. Gohan is thrust into conflict after conflict, and every time he shows a glimmer of his true power, it just fuels the narrative that he's destined to be this next great fighter. Because he's got that Saiyan DNA, everyone's like, oh, he's got potential, let's just keep pushing him. And that, folks, is how you get a child soldier. Now let's fast forward to the Frieza saga, and Gohan's what, 5, maybe 6 years old? At this point, he's seen way too much for a kid at his age. But does anyone care? Not really. Gohan's rolling with the big dogs now, fighting a racist tyrant who has an entire galactic empire under his thumb and committed genocide on his father's race. Now remember, Gohan is like 5 or 6. For some of you comparing him to Goku in Dragon Ball, Goku was around 11 at the start of the manga. Significantly older. Goku also started the series going on wholesome adventures, training with Roshi and hunting down Dragon Balls. He didn't face a threat as terrifying as Frieza until much later, with King Piccolo being his first real test against that level of evil, arguably. Taking all this into consideration, Gohan's not some warrior seeking glory or adventure. He's just trying to survive, protect his friends and hopefully not die. Unlike Goku, who was often driven by curiosity or the desire to become stronger, Gohan was thrust into this life without a choice. He never really asked to be a fighter. Despite his age though, Gohan steps up in huge ways during the Namek saga. Remember how he rescued Dende from Dodoria, one of Frieza's top henchmen? Then there's a time Gohan and Krillin teamed up to sneak into Frieza's camp and steal the Dragon Balls, putting their lives on the line. Gohan even stood up to Frieza himself to protect the nearly defeated Piccolo. You might think that these moments contradict my point about Gohan not being a natural fighter like his father, but Gohan constantly shows that he's afraid. The only reason he's able to do these things is to save his friends, or when he loses himself in rage. It was never really for the thrill of the fight. And yeah, he manages to hold his own against some of the Ginyu Force and even lands a few blows on Frieza, but let's be real, he's just a kid, a scared kid at that, trying to make it through Goku's endless death battle. Gohan didn't really seek out these battles. He was with his father and he stumbled into some intergalactic war. The guy's just trying to survive and keep the people he loves safe. He gets constantly dragged into fights way over his head. Moving on to the Android saga, Gohan's a bit older. You'd think the universe would give him a break, but nope. Now we've got killer androids on the loose and once again Gohan's dragged into this mess. But here's the thing, Gohan's not out here like Goku or Vegeta obsessively training or even chasing after power. He trains but for fun. The desire and yearning for a good fight like Goku and Vegeta just isn't there. I mean, when everyone else is losing their minds over power levels, Gohan's just doing his best not to die in a future ruled by killer robots. Gohan is full of potential and surrounded by master martial artists, many of whom are mentors and father figures. Gohan's relationship with fighting at this point can be summed up into one phrase: if I must. Now moving on to Gohan's 2018 LeBron run, the Cell Saga. This is where Gohan finally snaps. After years of being pushed into fights, witnessing death, destruction and straight up trauma, Gohan finally lets loose and he becomes the first to reach Super Saiyan 2. It's a Hall of Fame moment, no question, but let's not pretend Gohan did this because he wanted to. The guy straight up didn't want to fight. And some might argue that this was inconsistent writing. In the video I mentioned earlier, Cage talks about how Gohan has shown a willingness to fight, like versus Nappa and Frieza.
Before the Cell games, Gohan is consistently portrayed as being down to fight, even to the death, and provide backup to his friends when necessary.
And while that is true, I have one disagreement about this point. In those situations, the entire responsibility of defeating the villain wasn't on him. Both against Nappa and Frieza, he had people there who he viewed as stronger than him, as well as Goku, who was on his way. Against Cell, after seeing Goku, the strongest fighter Gohan had ever seen, essentially give up and admit that he can't beat Cell, the stakes were infinitely higher, and all the responsibility to beat Cell was squarely on his shoulders. He had all this pressure and lacked the natural desire to fight in death matches like Goku and the other Z fighters. He was a kid faced with insurmountable odds due to the belief that his father had about his own power, which he didn't even share. He tried to fight, failed, and naturally gave up. And only when the consequences of that failure showed itself, his friends being tortured by Cell and Android 16's death, was when he finally snapped and achieved that potential everyone saw. Super Saiyan 2. This is where Gohan's character has an interesting revelation. After his transformation, he's angry, bitter even, that it came to this. He gets cocky, holds back, plays with his food, and Goku's dead because Gohan didn't finish the job. And guess who's left with the guilt? Gohan. A kid who never wanted to be a fighter is responsible for his father's death, all because he didn't use his power effectively when he finally unlocked it. By the time we hit the Buu Saga, Gohan is finally trying to live a normal life. He's in high school, he's got a girlfriend, he's doing his best to avoid the whole world's strongest fighter label. He's got his own little superhero arc he's trying to go for, and honestly, good for him. He's been fighting since he was 4, the guy deserves a break. But nah, the Dragon Ball universe says, "You selfish bitch!" So Gohan's dragged back into the action. He gets his power unlocked by Elder Kai, turns into Ultimate / Mystic Gohan. I say Ultimate, but pick your poison. A cool power up, but again, this isn't really what Gohan wants. The life he lives is a clear sign that while he is skilled at fighting, he doesn't crave battles like Goku and Vegeta. He's not out here trying to surpass Goku. He's just a guy who wants to protect his family and maybe, just maybe, get a degree. Alright, enough dilly-dallying. It's time to talk about it. This is where people lose their minds. By the time Resurrection F and Dragon Ball Super roll around, Gohan is straight up retired. He's a family man, he's got a wife, he's raising a kid, and he's pursuing his studies. He's living his best life, honestly. The man who was the martial arts equivalent of a child soldier, fighting a life or death war since he was 4, finally finds peace. A lot of fans, and honestly me included at the time, were saying that this is the biggest fall off of all time. Look how they butchered my boy, Gohan is cooked, and every other fucking saying in the book. But the more I think about it, the more the story arc genuinely makes sense. Don't get me wrong, it's not really what I wanted for the character, but it does make sense. Gohan spent his entire childhood fighting gods, monsters and androids, and now he's just trying to chill for once. Thanks for watching. Like, comment. Okay, see, I have this problem, which is that I'm nuanced and have opinions based in logic. I know I'm better than you. So I couldn't end the video without talking about this. Here's the thing, Gohan's pacifist lifestyle isn't the problem. In fact, it's a great direction for the character. The problem is the way they handled it. Dragon Ball isn't the type of series that focuses on trauma or the greater psychological effects that these battles may or may not have on these characters. Gohan as an adult has never really been written in a way that suggests that his objectively insane and terrible childhood has affected him in any way. Even with all the foundation there, the connection was never established because Dragon Ball just isn't that type of series. Because of this, Gohan kinda comes off as a character who just gave up on fighting and became weak for little to no reason apart from his pacifism. And that, even in its more simplified, less deep and psychological form, could have still been an interesting route to take the character. Instead, we get this back and forth with Gohan in late Dragon Ball Z and Super. One arc he's training, the next he's back to being a civilian and retired. It's like the writers didn't really know what to do with him, and it shows. Instead of giving us a clear path for his character, we get random power-ups and half-baked motivations. The biggest and most recent example being Gohan's Beast form. I liked the movie and had fun watching Dragon Ball in the cinema for the first time in the UK. I always loved the movie for just giving me that experience with my friends. But the power up and Gohan's arc is a total missed opportunity. A character with the potential to be the deepest, tragic, relatable and well written in the entire franchise is watered down to another typical Saiyan. So yeah, Gohan went through crazy shit as a kid. After surviving all that trauma, he does deserve to relax and live a peaceful life. Yeah, the execution could have been better, but the core idea, Gohan finding happiness and moving on from fighting, that's solid. So let the man enjoy his retirement.